Hey everyone, Mandy and Mike here. So I know it's been a hot minute since we have seen...
A hot minute?
A hot minute?
It's been a month.
Okay, so it's been a month since I've been here. But for us to give you guys a lowdown on what's been going on with the Jenny build. So today Mike's going to go through stuff that he has done while we have been away.
Alright, so one of the next things we installed on Jenny is our fire suppression system, which is required by dirt. I like the fire bottle because the lines are braided, so I can just zip tie them through the cockpit. I don't have to install them in the car and bend them and flare them and all that stuff. I just zip tie them in and they're in there. I used Bicknell's clamps though, because the ones that come with the fire bottle system, the Allen head screws go in this way, and with the seat installed, I can't get at them to move this or adjust it or anything. So I really like the Bicknell clamps because the screws go in through the top. The other thing I installed was the helmet blower. I use this with top air in my helmet. And a lot of people think that it's like, because we get hot and sweaty in the car, I really use it just to defog the shield. As I'm breathing, I'm not a very good nose breather. I breathe through my mouth, so it fogs up my shield. And if with the air blowing down from the top of my helmet, it keeps the shield from fogging up so I can see. Next thing I installed while Mandy was gone was our Easy CT1 Bulldog rear. What's really nice about this rear is we just set it on the center section on jack stands in the middle and then slid the tubes in from the side. You don't have to have 3 guys to lift it and try to fit it through here to get it installed. It just sits there and you can do it with one person. We hooked up our 92-95 BRP torque arms. This rear is a 411 with Super G ring and pinion for a big block. It's got all the bells and whistles. It's a phenomenal rear. We've had really good luck with them. Love that you can change the tubes. We got quad lock tubes, coilover brackets from Bicknell. We hooked up our radius rods. Sometime next week, I believe, we'll probably do an install video on our stop tech brakes. Eventually we'll have a strange old drive shaft put in here. So before you install your hubs and rotors on the rear, you need to choose what type of brakes you're gonna run. There are brake brackets in different heights for an 11 3/4 inch, a 12 inch, and a 12 1/4 or 12 1/8, something like that, rotor. And so if you're gonna order 12 inch rotors, make sure that you don't have an 11 3/4 bracket, or it's not gonna fit correctly. The pads aren't gonna be nice and flush with the top of the rotor. And so I'm running 11 3/4 with Stop Tech rotors. So I'm gonna install this. Now, on rotation with the quad locks, you can put the caliper on the top or you can mount it on the front. I'm pretty sure you can probably mount it on the back too. But I don't think it really matters on braking. It's more just about clearance. So on the right side, I would mount it in the front like this, because then it's really easy to bleed them. You don't have to take the calipers off to get the bleeders pointed up. On the left side, I would run them on the top, or they also offer a 10-degree tilt back or a 30-degree tilt back. Now the 30-degree gets you a little bit too close to the shock. Straight up and down gets you a little too close to your left side panhard mount. If you go with a 10-degree, it's just right. So that's a new part from Bicknell that you can get. I'd probably recommend that if you're going left side panhard. So we also installed our Bicknell front axle. I used grade 8 bolts on our front axle brackets because I've broken the grade 5s before. Most of the other bolts are okay with grade 5. We use 5/8 bolts on the steering arm, the tie rod. Sometimes the drag link, but really this bolt here and these bolts are the only ones I've really broken, and maybe the panhard. So those ones need to be pretty stout. Maybe replace them once in a while if you haven't on an older car. We use never sees on our rod ends when we install them in the radius rods, although these ones are chromoly instead of aluminum, so we could use grease. We've got Bicknell big bearing spindles. We have Burt big bearing hubs, and we've got rem polished bearings in these hubs from Superior Bearing and Supply. They spin pretty nice. So there's our front end install. It's relatively simple on a dirt modified straight axle. We installed the starter on the bell housing, and this one's from Burt, and a big thing about this is just reclocking it. So there's 2 bolts on the back side of this before you install it. You got to take those out and turn this so that it clears the steering box, clears your leg, clears the transmission, goes in there nice. And we have ours pretty close to the steering box, up and out, away from my shin. I like this starter. It's up and out of the way. It's lightweight, but it's also strong enough to start a big block. But I also make sure that this bolt has quite a lot of threads going into the bell housing so that it doesn't get stripped. The other one's a stud, and you can get different nuts for this. This is a 7/16 nut, but because this one takes a 5/8 wrench, I made sure that I got one of these smaller nuts that takes a 5/8 as well, so you haven't got to try to stuff an 11/16 in there. So I'm using a 9035 brake bracket. I'm going to mount the caliper in the front on the right rear. 9035 is for 11 3/4 rotor. You need this ring for DMI tubes. This wear ring, the seal from the hub rides on it, so it won't wear out the tube. You're also going to need to know which seal to get because it's a larger inside diameter than the ones that don't run this seal. Then you're going to put your bearing on. So normally the bearing would be in the hub, and then you'd put the seal in. You'd drive it in with a hammer lightly. I don't have the seals yet, so I'm just going to show you how it goes on. I like to put a little bit of grease on. This nut has a backup washer, and I use steel nuts. Some people are okay with aluminum, but they can jump the threads on the tube, so I use a steel nut. And then there's a lock that goes in and 2 set screws to hold on from falling off. So when we started, like I said, this dash only had oil pressure and water temp. While Mandee was gone, I added the Teltac OTP Pro, which just does the recall of 3 laps, and an oil temp gauge and a fuel pressure gauge. To me, those are important. A lot of people don't run them, but I think those are important to have to keep track of what's going on with the engine, make sure there aren't any problems. It really shortens up the time of diagnosing, well, what is the problem right now if you do have an issue. If your fuel pressure is low, then it's, obviously you got a fuel pump problem, or you got a problem with your fuel lines. They could be sucking air or something like that. It would point you directly to that problem. Or if you didn't have that gauge, you wouldn't have any clue. You'd just be like, well, the engine isn't running right. So what I did was I taped this all off and used a hole saw to drill these holes. And I marked out the tack and just put them in. So that was simple and easy. And we've installed our battery and a few other things. And once we get some more parts, we'll continue on with these videos. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like the videos, subscribe to the channel, the newsletter, and come back next time.